Welcome to the Old Souls and Seekers podcast, brought to you by Satori Prime. If you're anything like us, you've been around and around the personal development and mindset block quite a few times. You've read the books, watched the videos, attended the seminars, and even worked with a coach or two, and yet you still find yourself searching for more. You may even feel stuck or that you should be farther along than where you are right now. And after doing over a decade of mindset work, we've come to this realization. Mindset work is like a small hit of dopamine that distracts you from your true work. You get these little hits of feeling better, only to be met with the same underlying conditions and patterns over and over again. Now, mindset was an important part of your evolution as well as ours, but it hits a plateau, and now you find yourself ready for that deeper layer of growth and expansion. If you're listening to this podcast, then you're ready to get off that Ferris wheel. This podcast is only for those that are ready to dive deep and do the real inner healing work. For those that are ready to move past more information into actual experiences. If you're looking for more understanding, then you've come to the wrong place. This is a home for old souls ready to fully embrace and remember who they truly are. Ready to make a profound difference in their lives and in the lives of others. So welcome home, dear one. We're excited to be part of your journey.
Awesome, guys. Well, welcome in.
Awesome.
Hey, Jane.
Good to have you here. Oh, Jane, I can't believe this is your first time with us. Jane's already in our level 1 program. Mm-hmm. So I didn't imagine that you'd not been on one of these. Yeah, long time to see. Yeah, Tammy was with us in L1. Veronique, who's one of our coaches, was also in the L1 session. Marina, welcome. Marina, where are you from? The name sounds of the Russian descent.
The Ruski variety.
Yeah. Andrea, also one of our coaches, and
Andrea, first timer.
Yeah, not
Andrea handles the stand-up comedy in the chat box for us.
That's right.
A very important role in our organization.
In any event, we host these Tuesday tune-ups live for you guys to get to know us a little bit. Just get a sense of who we are, what we're about. Each week we talk about, different topics, even though I will say that most of the conversations lead to kind of a similar point, if there was one. But we're really trying to give you an understanding of who we are, what we do, why we do what we do, give you guys the opportunity to ask some questions and get some feedback from us. And then again, we can't get into the nitty-gritty how-to stuff on these calls. There's just not enough time, and it's not the design of them. So if you've gone through a few of these and your next question is like, okay, well, great, how do I do that? The next how to do that is actually to join one of the awareness effect programs, which could be level 1, 2, or 3. And we'll talk about later if you want to figure out which one's the right for you. There's going to be an opportunity that you can even jump on a call with me directly to get that. And I know some of you have already been on those calls with me. So if you want to share how valuable or not valuable those calls were, feel free to do that in the chat box. My intention is always to listen and listen deeply. One of the things that Guy and I have cultivated through the Awareness Effect programs and the work that we do is this ability not just to listen to someone's words, which is what most coaches do, right? It's like a understanding of where their story is coming from and things like that. We've also trained ourselves to be able to feel what's happening in your body. And it's not voodoo or witchcraft. It's just something that, the more you do this work, the more you're able to actually sense that because you have a good map of your own. And so when I sit with someone, I'm not just listening to the words, but I'm actually sitting and tracking what is happening internally in your body. And in doing so, it's almost like I can scan your system and see where the blockages are internally. And what I've noticed is people keep trying to remove these blocks from their mind, and by trying to like understand them or, figure out how they got there or why they got there. And so you end up ruminating a lot in thought-based world, trying to figure out why this thing happened and what it's doing and how to get rid of it and all that kind of stuff. And the truth is, after doing this for 20 plus years and taking, thousands, if not tens of thousands of people through these kind of practices, what I can tell you with anecdotal certainty is that the mind has no access to what's happening in the body. It can opine about it. It can try to create formulas to understand it or how it got there in the first place. But as far as like moving those blockages, your mind has no access to. It's almost like the mind and the body talk two different languages. And so when the mind tries to put the word-based reality into the body, and the body doesn't talk in words, right? The body is a sensorial thing. So it's almost like this is speaking English and this is speaking Chinese, and they just don't communicate. So what we found is we have found practices and we have found specific techniques that put people in the experience of that, not the understanding. I tell people, like, when they join our level 2 and level 3 program, I'm like, honestly, I don't give a shit how much you understand. Because your understanding is irrelevant. Like, how many books have you all read? How many videos have you watched? How many programs have you been in? And we all, I did it too. Like, we all go through it and we're trying to find that golden nugget, right? Like, we even call them golden nuggets. Like, you're going in there and writing books of notes and like, oh my God, this is the thing. Da, 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 da. And you've been doing that for years. And here we still are. Yep. Like, some of us don't even read the books and the notes that we take. Other of us maybe scan them once in a blue moon. And most of us, if not all of us, are still dealing with the same stuff that we were so excited to write that note.
Yeah, I would just want to say, if your aim for transformation and or healing is going to be, and by the way, we're not demeaning intelligence or anybody's wisdom. Everybody has their intelligence and wisdom in whatever ways they have them. Like, I love to philosophize. I love to have deep, meaningful conversations and inquire into deep parts of my mind and the psyche of humanity and social constructs and political constructs. Like, I enjoy all that, right? As long as it doesn't draw energy from me, I would say I enjoy that. Having said that, when we're working with the mind landscape, it's like, how efficient can you be when you have to keep something at top of mind all the time to make it work, right? And again, we're telling you from personal, like Ilan said, anecdotal evidence, which to the individual is the best evidence you have. 15 years of doing, really intense mindset work. And again, not to say at all that mindset work is not a fantastic foundation. In fact, we continue to teach it because we understand how important of a foundation it is and how important of a bridge it is to get into deeper work that is somatic, energetic, and awareness-based in nature. And that's why we start our programs with L1. We make that extremely available financially. It's not a big leap to get into those kind of programs. When it comes to L2 and L3, to most people, what we're teaching there is wildly foreign to them. Okay. And that doesn't make it complex, by the way. It just makes it foreign, right? These are the skills that each and every one of us could have, should have acquired as children, had our parents known to teach us these things, or our teachers or society had known that these were important things. And like, look, here's the secret sauce to the whole thing. The number one hack to anybody's transformation, and I'm going to say it in a scientific type of way, is your ability to regulate your own nervous system. Okay, I'll say that again. Your number one hack, as far as I'm concerned, for anybody, is your own ability to regulate, or at the very least learn what are practices that help me regulate my nervous system. For those of you guys who are dealing with panic attacks, a lot of negative self-talk, depression, all that kind of stuff, right? Look, here's the reality. That cycle is probably going to continue on for as long as it does, right? Whatever challenges you have in your life will probably continue to be the teachers in your life. Like there is a cycle that I'm in for my whole life that I have not been able to seem to get completely out of it. Now, most of the time, I can't say all the time, I'm not despondent about it and I don't feel despair about it, because what I've realized is that's a really good lens for me to learn from. And as I continue to peer into that void, something always seems to come out of the void and teach me another layer and give me a little bit more freedom and give me a little bit more ease in my system and all that kind of stuff. Having said that, you know, when we say this all the time with mindset work, it's really about learning how to cope and manage. It's just mindset gives you the ability to at least see, oh, this thing is happening. Oh, I could take responsibility for the thing that's happening. Because, you know, look at any issue worldwide. I don't care if it's micro, macro, whatever. No issue begins to resolve itself until somebody steps forward and says, I will take responsibility for that. Nothing. Not a war, nothing in our society, like nothing moves, not even 1 inch, 1 iota into anything of relevance until somebody steps forward and says, hey, I'll take responsibility for that. And so in your own life, we get it. You know, there are some really challenging things people are dealing with. There are difficult emotions. There are difficult circumstances, and we're not downplaying any of that. Having said that, we're not in your body and we're not living your life, and you're not in our body and you're not living our life. You don't, you know, for whatever it looks like to you. And we still have whatever challenges we have in our lives, like certain patterns that can take over and run the show, and often have through different periods of our lives, right? The real question is not, hey, can I completely get rid of that, or I'll never be happy? And if that's where you're aiming at, I get it's a long road to go down that road and find out ultimately that you can't resolve that.
Yeah.
So we want to save you the time, the headspace, the money, the energy. And even no matter how many times I say this to you, you're still going to probably try to go down this road of resolution. Why do I know that? Because I'm still trying to do that. You know, with all the knowledge, with 21 years of work done with some of the best teachers, and, you know, an immeasurable amount of money invested into my personal education, there are parts of me that will not give up the pursuit of, I won't be happy until that's away and gone from my life. And they're absolutely convinced that's true. And then I have to, you know, be mindful and notice those parts of me, and then keep coming back to my practices. But to Ilan's point, right, like the real tension that your mind is responding to, the negative talk, the depression, it's really about how it feels within your internal experience. And then the mind is really just trying to decipher what's going on down there. It's trying to do its best, right? So we give it voice, we give it stories, we give it names, because that's what the mind does. It creates the illusion of stories, the illusion of understanding. We all want to have a sense of control. Oh, if I actually understand what's happening inside of me, at least there's some relief. I have this sense of control. Okay, I have that disease. I need to explore that disease. I have that thing, you know. But like, if you just sit here for a moment, maybe we do this for a quick moment, and you kind of, you know, we do this practice of unhooking from the mind. It's kind of like the foundation of really coming into the seat of awareness. And then we come towards the body. More often than not, we can locate some sort of tension inside the body. The body is collapsed or contracted in some way. And if you're really honest with yourself, you'll realize it's not emotions that I'm having, at least not in the way that we verbalize them, like, oh, I'm sad today, or I'm this and that. There's a sensation in the body that we would deem as an unpleasant sensation in the body. And there's sensations in the body that we would deem extremely pleasant. And most of us want to spend all our time in the pleasant sensations, none of our time in the unpleasant sensations, right? Having said that, look at your own life experience. Do any of you guys, yes or no, in the chat box, think it's practical that you are forever going to feel pleasant sensations in your body, and that you're never going to have any other like no other unpleasant sensations ever again? And if you spend all your time in pursuit of trying to do things that resolve having unpleasant sensations, but then an unpleasant sensation arises, you are left with disappointment, you're left with attachment, you're left with upset, and then you're on that cycle all the time over and over again. So is the path that we want to go down the one of never feeling an unpleasant sensation anymore, or is the path that we want to go down becoming so intimate with every sensation in our body to such a degree that all we have as those sensations arise within us is the experience of love towards ourselves, love towards life, love towards the arising within us. And that to us is what we consider liberation and freedom. Liberation and freedom is not getting out of every trap that you think you shouldn't be in. Again, there are certain traps that you will maintain for the rest of your life. It's by design, most likely. I know whether you like to hear it or not, your soul chose that path for learning in this school that we call Earth, and this density reality that we're in. And again, there are these cyclical patterns, just like I'm sure like in your life, that I run into all the time. And I'm always like, again, really? And it's like, yeah, again, do another round. Do another round, Jimmy. You didn't get it.
You're stronger now.
Exactly. You didn't get it. And if you really understand how like atoms move in the body or the celestial bodies move in the cosmos, that's what they do. They move forward and they go around like a corkscrew, right? And so even if things in your life are coming around over and over again, the prevalent experience for most people is like, fuck this again. Like I'm kind of in one of those, being perfectly honest here with you guys, over the last day or so, day and a half, like, oh shit, this thing happened again, right? Like this very familiar experience for me. And again, it's like, even though I'm looking at it again, I'm not the same person that's looking at it again. I've done a ton of work in between the patterns, and it's just another look at that pattern. And it's like, oh, this layer, this level, this pressure, you know, this uncertainty still doesn't have love. This unpleasantness is still there. But what I'll tell you, like, you know, because it just kind of, I won't go into details, but like something happened and this like thing arose in me. And what I feel is like kind of despair, to be honest. I don't feel good. I feel this like this sadness, kind of depression, this despair, but it's like, it just doesn't amplify to the same place it used to. Like this used to put me into like terror cycles. And then I couldn't do anything anymore in my life or think straight or communicate with people. And I would get, you know, upset with my wife and upset at my children. And it's just because I'm having all these unpleasant sensations in my body. But there's all this feedback that starts coming from there. And you start operating from the part that's having that fear or the part that's having that tension, instead of sitting in your awareness and just witnessing that, yeah, right now, that's the reality. So, you know, my hope is that we are offering a way to say, hey, look, do the mindset work. You want to get clear on the tricks that your mind plays. If you're not clear about the tricks that the mind plays, it is going to outplay you every single time. You're going to get hooked into your stories. You're going to get hooked into your parts. You're going to merge into these very difficult realities. And you're going to spend a lot of time trying to figure out why this is your reality. The quickest way out of the reality that you're currently in is to accept that you're in that reality. And I know that's a tall ask, but again, nothing happens without our ability to completely concede that the experience we're having right now is the only experience that we're having right now. You can either be witness and observe what is occurring and let it move through you, or you can be like, I don't want this experience, get away from me, and you can spend a lifetime avoiding it. If you choose the latter and you spend your whole lifetime trying to avoid it, you will forever be in the prison of that experience. I guarantee you, you will never find your way out of it. And so we all have to meet that place, find that level of responsibility, and then start learning how to witness what's occurring within us while receiving support, while learning how to find ground, while feeling in connection with another human being. And I'm kind of skimming over those three things, but if you do those three things together in the way that we teach, it is a guarantee that the claw that has you will slowly begin to release. And that could be a lifetime pursuit, is to release that claw. And it could be many lifetimes pursuit to learn how to release that claw. It's like, you know, people have been in a certain type of claw for a really, really long time. It's going to take something for these monkeys, you know, in their young brains to learn how to navigate going into higher states of consciousness and stabilizing those states in permanence, so that stability is the way that we experience our life from. And more, that's the one thing that we can say from the side that we're on, right? Like we're a little bit probably further down the path than you guys, and everybody has to walk that path this way or that way, is that what we have seen time and time again for us and all our clients is the guarantee of applying this work on a regular basis to your life. And we're talking about a few minutes a day of intentional practice, is you're going to feel safer in your body. You're going to see virtual thumbs up everywhere. You're going to feel safer in your body. You're going to experience connection, authentic connection in a way you've never experienced before. You're probably going to experience well-being for the first time in your life. And that will start being the foundation. So if you were grounded, you were feeling connected, you're feeling well-being all the time, what I want you to think is, how does a human being operate that slowly begins to climb out of the response of fight or flight and then lives their life on the foundation of groundedness, of connection, of well-being, of ease? Do you think that your relationships would show up differently? Yes. Do you think that the actions you take would be differently? Yes. And if those things are yes to you, then you can predict that the results you're going to get in your life are just ultimately going to show up differently, no matter what arises. And that's not to say that challenging things won't continue to happen in life, because that just seems to be part of the course of life. Like, things happen, right? But it's really how you meet those things and in those moments. And, a grounded and stable person deals with circumstances very different than a person that's in a fight, a flight, or a freeze response.
Exactly right. I want to bring something through that was asked today in level 1, and it kind of I see it as something that plagues humans in general, and specifically in doing this work and the energetic work and this and that. And it's this notion that I'm doing it wrong, or they're getting it more than I'm getting it, or it's that thing that we do to just compare ourselves constantly to others. And whether it's in personal development, or whether it's in finances, or in health, or relationships, or whatever it is, can you all just notice how much we do that everywhere in our lives? Like, can you guys find the part that's constantly looking out there and comparing yourself to the other person? They're more successful than me. They play tennis better than me. They dress better than me. They have more money than me. Their relationship to their husband or wife is better than me. The way they parent and their kids are better. Like, it's just incessant. Their hair is better than me. Their eyes are better than me. Their butt's better than mine. Whatever. It's like insane. And then just track how that makes you feel internally when we do that. There's this comparison that happens, and immediately after the comparison comes up your version, your little person version of, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not successful enough. I'm not good looking enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not whatever. You guys feel how that brings that through right away? Yeah. So Tammy's actually pointing to the second piece here. So Tammy writes, sometimes I'm so hard on myself, I don't even have to compare myself to others, but the initial thoughts are comparing to others, but I don't measure up, so then I'm hard on myself. Right? So it's like, what I want to take from Tammy's share here is, there's this part of us that, I know this is going to sound very strange to hear, and I shared this with the level 1 people as well. I want you to get that this part that yells at you to be better, be faster, be skinnier, be smarter, be more successful, be better dressed, be what, blah, 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 right? In its own way, I get that you don't like it. I get it. And in its own way, it is actually trying to help you. In a way, it really does have your best interest at heart, even though your now adult interest is different than what this thing is telling you about yourself. So maybe the way that it communicates with you doesn't work for you. The things that it says to you doesn't work for you. And still, it was this part got created when you were very, very young, and it was created to help you become more successful, become more fit, become smarter, become this. Because at a time when we were younger and we heard these things, from most of us, maybe not all of us, but for most of us, it actually made you work harder. And I'm going to like say something right now because it's kind of like coming through. And what I'm realizing is if you think about survival from an animalistic purview, like so don't even think of us as like human. Think like tens of thousands of years ago, right? Human beings are fairly new on this planet, okay? This thing comes in and it is constantly berating you and pushing you to be better and better and better. If you think from a purely animal perspective, right? Like, what's an animal? Animals' job, and our job on this planet too, is simply to procreate and to create better offspring, right? Now, how do we create better offspring? We find, and you look at nature, right? Like a bird. Males are usually like the pretty ones in nature. It's somehow didn't formulate in the human form, but in every other animal, right? Like the males are usually the pretty ones, right? Because they're the ones that have to go out and like do all these performances. I don't know if you've ever seen these crazy birds in the jungle where they like do all these dances and they have all these crazy feathers and blah, blah, blah. And the female is just watching and she's like, yeah, no, not good enough, right? And leaves this guy brokenhearted. He tried so hard, like nothing, like, nope, you're not good enough. But what's the purpose? To breed with the best of the best of the best. So this genetic code and line goes on, right? Like, so that we're breeding and we're actually creating like better genetic code, offspring, etc. So like at an animalistic place, this is who we are. So we have this voice that's constantly pushing us to be better and better and better and better and better. Why? Because that's how we are evolving the human race. Now, again, when we were young, this voice may have motivated you. It may have made you work really hard at school or really hard at sports or whatever it might be, right? Because the brain like wants our survival. So the brain is like, okay, if I'm not better than John at John is going to go get the mate and I'm going to be left here. So like at a very animalistic level, you guys get it? It's like for our evolution. Having said all of that, I don't know about you, my voice, it got to the point where I was like, bro, this is not effective. You yelling at me like a drill sergeant and telling me I'm a piece of shit and I can't do it and I'm not doing it enough and I'm not doing it fast enough and blah, blah, blah. Like maybe it used to motivate me, but from where I'm sitting right now, it just sounds like you're yelling at me. So if what you want is my best interest and what you want is my evolution, then we need to sit back down and figure out how to have those conversations because this is ineffective.
That's beautiful, Ilan.
When I hear this, I feel less than, I feel unmotivated, I feel demoted, I feel weak, I feel stupid, I feel ineffective. Like I'm not sitting here like, yeah, let's go take on the world. You literally like diminish all of my power. And now I'm just sitting here lost. Doesn't work for me. And when I started to interact with it, so first of all, like, let me back up one step. The first thing I realized was what I said earlier, like this part is working incessantly without food, without sleep, without anything. And it has been working on your behalf forever. Again, with the best of intentions at heart, right? So first I had to get how hard this part has been working on my behalf. And truth be told, when I was a kid, it worked. I worked my ass off at school. I worked my ass off in sports. I worked my ass off to be better looking, to like meet better looking girls, like all of it. It worked. Because I would see someone, I'd be like, oh my God, they're so much better than me at this. Okay, what do I have to do to get that? But that was just me. That was the way I operated. I know for other people that may have not worked. But now I'm like, okay, look, if you want to support me, if you want me to get better, let's spin this whole thing around. And if this part really, if you guys resonate with this and this part is really has your best interest at heart and wants you to improve and evolve, then you get to recreate that level of communication. Imagine, I don't know why this is coming through, but imagine like, you know, when you're in kindergarten or in pre-K, like teachers, if you've ever met kindergarten teachers or pre-K teachers, they have a very specific energy about them.
Yes.
Right? Like it's usually very sweet, and they have this very cute little voice, and everything's like, oh, hi, let's play. Imagine, this is what I'm thinking, like, so imagine if that never changed. And now you're like 45 years old, and they're like, do you want a cookie? Do you want some milk in your coffee? Right? You'd be like, shut the fuck up, treat me like an adult. Right? Like, what are you talking to me like this for? And like that, I want you to get that part that is yelling was also created, maybe not when you were 3, but probably by the time you were like 6. And it's been that way for a long time. So you know what? Like, let's work on upgrading the way that these parts communicate with us. And I told the level 1 people, like, the work that we do at level 2 and level 3 is we actually go and meet those parts inside. We meet the protectors inside, and we begin to re-inform the protector, re-inform the part, so that we can upgrade the way that they're communicating with us, we're communicating with them, and then it upgrades the way that you operate in life. Because I don't know about you, I play a lot of tennis. And when I had this voice constantly every single day, yelling at me for every single stroke and I felt debilitated. I wasn't motivated. I was like, fuck me, I will never be good. And so this kid inside who's trying to perform, it's just pressure. I had this visualization. I was like, look, when I was shooting hoops, 12 years old, and I was in the park, and it was me and my buddy, and it was late at night, and we're just like, you know, we wouldn't leave the court till we had to make 10 free throws in a row. We did like around the world and 10 free throws in a row. I could hit 10 out of 10. I could hit fucking 20 out of 20. It was like just flow. But then you put me in a game and we're 2 points down and I'm at the free throw line. That's a whole different shooting perspective, right? Because all that pressure. And then what I realized when I was playing tennis is like, I'm actually putting myself under that pressure for no reason. There's no people in the stands. I'm not trying to win money or get on tour or win trophies. Like, I'm literally doing it to feel good, get better, have fun outside, move my body, be competitive, etc. Like, that's it. But this was reacting like we're like playing at the US Open Championship every single point. I'm like, bro, let's just go out here and have fun. Mm-hmm. And things began to shift as I was creating those new conversations, if you will.
Yeah.
And that, I'm telling you right now, like, you're never going to turn that thing off.
So can you just make for a distinction here for people? Because I love where what you're saying. Can you make a distinction? Because I think what people hear is, I'm the one that's doing that. I'm the one that's putting pressure on myself. Yeah. I'm the one that's having these thoughts. And so, look, just before Ilan goes there, what I want to say is like that's the relationship we have with these mechanisms within us, right? With this mind chatter. And like, whatever, I won't go down that road, but this mind chatter that's happening there is this I am. And when you say I am, it's a telltale sign that you're merged with that experience. And so what I want you, from your perspective, you don't have to like give it as a lesson, but from your perspective, what's different now? Because I know that you're not operating from, I am doing this to myself.
Yeah. And
really kind of creating that distinction between there's like a part of me. And so describe that relationship and how that's reformed. Like how have you reinformed that? And what I want you guys to listen through is like, yes, there's like our relationship to what's happening outside of ourselves and our response to it. Or I don't want to say we're having a response to it. Like the body, this thing is just having a response to the stimulus, right? And then there's like the inner world that we also have a particular relationship to, and it's responding in a particular way to what it perceives as happening in the outer world. So this is where people get lost a little bit, is they think like that they are the ones having an experience, because what else could it be? Yeah. But this is why our work is different and the approach is different, because from this spiritual perspective that I hope Ilan describes in his own experience, like that's what gets you out of the trap. is you recognize this is not actually me that's doing this. And so the judgment of what's like that I'm doing it in some way begins to disappear. And that's what starts opening all this stuff up. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really, really great question. And so you were sharing, I'm like, the way I visualize the whole, I'm very visual. So I'll just give you guys kind of like the visual map. So to me, there's the soul. There's like who we are is this soul being. And this soul being has, again, just my belief. I'm not saying this is truth, but this soul has chosen to come down into some sort of embodiment in this planet, other planets, whatever, like multiples of times, right? Because we come from this world where everything is light and love. And the only way that we can experience anything other than that is to embody. And so we stuff this big, beautiful, incredible, infinite, divine soul into this teeny weeny little weak skin suit. Okay. And that's going to come with some challenges. And so the way I visualize it, it's like the soul is who you actually are. This human form, though, through the time that you've been alive, has been collecting different experiences. And every single experiences, every once in a while, there's something that the word that we use or distinction we create is a rupture. So something happened. It could be something big or it can be something small. But in that moment, it was a pretty overwhelmingly energetic experience, right? Like it could have been embarrassment. It could have been sadness. It could have been defeat. It could have been loss, abandonment, something, right? Something happened. In that moment, I want you to imagine that 3 different parts get created almost for every single one of these experiences. The first one is the hurt one. There's like the hurt little one that gets really triggered, okay? Then in that same exact moment, the mind creates a protector. And the protector's job is to make sure that if this ever happens again, there's some sort of defense strategy to make the pain stop. And in addition to that, it creates this other part. And this part I call like the hyper vigilant manager. These are the parts that are always looking out for who could potentially hurt the little one. So for example, my wounding, one of my early woundings was I felt like a loser, right? Like that's kind of my version of I'm not good enough. So I have this hyper vigilant part. So there's the soul me. Soul me is unwavering, like undamaged, untouched, like none of this stuff impacts soul at all. This is all like in body. So there's the hurt one who feels like a loser. Then there's this hyper vigilant manager part. And this is the part that's constantly comparing and contrasting, because what it's looking for is who is better than me, who is stronger than me, who is smarter than me, who is faster than me, who is more successful than me, who has a better body than me, who has better dress than me, who has a better car than me, who lives in a better house than me, who wears better shoes than me. Constant, right? Because what it's trying to avoid is this little one feeling like a loser. So it's constantly looking at, is this person? 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 And then every once in a while, because like it's trying to like keep everyone at bay, right? But every once in a while, something happens and it hits the little one and that whole thing gets reactivated. And that's when the protector comes on. And the protector is the one that gets like really, really, it could be really angry. It could shut you down. It can make you run away. Like each one of us has our own little defense strategies. So what I envision in here is like there are hundreds of these parts, hundreds hurt ones, 100 managers, hundreds of protectors, all of them.
Just so you get, bro, just so a little feedback there. So like people are finding it confusing because you're thinking like, oh, there's all these parts I need to acknowledge. It sounds like you need to go and find like 1,000 different things in your system to heal. So I just want you to just give clarification.
So you don't need to find every single one, right? But what Guy was pointing to is like, so I have this part, right? This part that is trying to protect me, that is constantly berating me. We all have it. Okay. I call it the judger, but you can call it whatever you want. So when it's happening, I know that they're like, I'm made up of all of these different things. So when it's happening, I can't get mad at something that was designed by me to protect me in a way. So when I hear that voice, it doesn't even register as me talking to me. And for some of you, it might still register as like, oh, this is me talking to me. It's not you talking to you. It's this part. Think of like a computer program got created, and this computer program is doing the talking. So when I hear it and I experience it, it's not like, oh, I'm being such a shithead to myself again. It's like, oh no, this part that is trying to protect me is getting really, really loud. And if I can notice that it's a part of me, but not me, I now create distance where I can observe something without going for the ride with that thing. We call it like, don't get on the bus. Right? So bus comes like, get on and we're going to fight the world. And you're like, yeah, no, I'm good today. Like
I just want to reiterate that, you know, what Michael Singer in his book, Untethered Soul, calls the seat of awareness. What I spent a long time doing is trying to understand my way into it. It's like, oh, if I just keep gathering intellect, that will increase my level of observation. And eventually I'll land in this thing called awareness, right? Like this clean, open space awareness. And that never happened. So I was always like, oh, I must have not done enough programs, or may not have transformed or had enough breakthroughs. Maybe if I just keep cleaning my understanding up, I'll land in this mystical awareness that he keeps pointing to, that a lot of great teachers point at. I don't know if that's your experience, but that's certainly what I was chasing for like 15 years, trying to do that. We finally met some teachers and it was like, no, this is where awareness is. They're like, just do this. And then like in 3 seconds, you're there. Okay. Now that doesn't mean you're resolved in every way possible, because again, that was the disillusionment I was under. I was under this disillusionment that when you find this seat, you are then clear of all karma, clear of all ego. Like that's kind of how it occurred in my mind. And I was like, oh, good. You just sit here and you're like, you know, meditating, fingers in these beautiful postures, and like life is just hunky dory now. Money flows from the heavens and like everything works for you. And it's like, no, it's not like that at all. There are different levels of mind. Think of it as like different frequencies, right? Depression, very low, dense frequency. Elation, very high pitch, high frequency, right? It doesn't make one bad or good. Ilan always says it's like keys on a piano. Then you have these low kind of sad notes, and you have these like high kind of peppy notes. But like nobody wants to listen to a song where it's just like beep, 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 beep. And nobody wants to listen to a song just boom, 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 boom all the time, right? And so what we're pointing to is, first of all, how to locate this awareness, because it's not an intelligence understanding. It is a direct experience. And the direct experience that I would argue that most people are having now, that they mistake for observer, is nothing more than their conditioning of their mind. It's like we're all trapped in this conditioning, right? And so the first thing we want to understand is, how do we exit the witness of the mind that's in that conditioning, and how do we go to this pure, opened, contentless view? When you go to this contentless view, and there's just one level of mind, there's lots of different things that we can articulate in terms of like frequencies and ways that we experience the world through a particular medium, right? We all have heard of the 7 chakras. Every chakra has its own vibrational frequency. Another way to say that is every chakra has its own perspective. Do you understand that? Like the heart's perspective is very different than, let's say, your root chakra's perspective, or the solar plexus, or the sacral, right? So, or the open eye up here, right? These are all very different perspectives. And so bottom line is, when you find this open awareness, what we have found, and again, I'm speaking from anecdotal evidence. I don't want to say, here's the scientific research that provides the evidence for everything I've said here, but these are ancient wisdom paths that have been around for thousands of years. And they've been around for that long and have lasted this long because Guess what? They work. So we can take the neurology and neuroscience and psychology of modern day, and we can create a bridge with these ancient wisdom philosophies that clearly have worked, and we can wrap them together into a really, really beautiful process. So when we find this open awareness, what we unleash is a certain biological, energetic, call it whatever you want to call it, process in our body. Okay. And from our point of view, this is just, again, how we're describing it. Doesn't mean it's exactly like this, is that your body begins to metabolize energy. Okay. And so you don't have to sit there and convince your mind, hey, can you stop doing that? You just recognize, hey, there's a part of me that's really upset right now about something. Some stimulus happened and this part is upset. And like Ilan said, the reason it's upset is not because it's trying to berate you. It's literally trying to protect you. Now it is going to say whatever it needs to say to get you back into, that lane that most of us are comfortable in, which is a lane within the patterns that we know well. Whether we like it or not is irrelevant to this part. Notice how your mind never goes, are you enjoying these thoughts that I'm having? Do you want more of them, or would you like less of them? Is it too hot or is it too cold? What do you think? And you're like, yeah, it'd be really nice if you could just ease up there, Jack. And Jack's like, all right, well, I'll do that. It doesn't work that way, right? It doesn't work that way because something is happening within the body that the mind feels it's uncontrollable. It's an unconscious response. I must protect this child. I have to come forward. This is really, really scary. Let me fix it. And so from an energetic perspective, what we're saying is, and this is what we have found in our work, and again, with translating this work to so many people, and everyone will confirm the same thing, is that when you're feeling that experience in your body, it's as if something is stuck there. Like somebody mentioned before, I could feel my throat closing, just like that, right? It could be your throat, your heart, your stomach, something is contracting. And what we're actually tracking, what Ilan was talking about tracking energetically, is where those contractions are happening and how they feel in the body. And so it's that contraction, it's that frozen energy inside the body that the mind is ultimately responding to and trying to protect you from. And that's where all these kind of heinous negative thoughts seem to source from. And the only reason I say it seems to source from, because in our experience, and again, with all of our clients' experiences, is that when this energy begins to metabolize, when you find this open awareness and you set forth this biological process, this kind of, call it a cleansing process, right? It's you're metabolizing this energy, the contraction is relaxing, it's letting go. And so now that stimulus that's within the body that doesn't feel good, that again, the mind is trying to respond to, is not there. And so when the stimulus is gone, the mind no longer has to respond. It can quiet down and calm. So if you're experiencing a lot of negative thoughts, experiencing a lot of depression, from my perspective, and again, I'm not in your body, is that there's just a lot of discomfort, like you're stuck in a fight or flight, like a very intense fight or flight or freeze response, probably for like decades at a time. Like you've just been living there for a long time. Now, what do we do when something uncomfortable first arises in our body? Our initial reaction is like, oh, no. Right? Like the hands come up and it's an avoidance. But if you think about, again, if you feel into it instead of thinking about it, you'll feel that you're literally in kind of like a trench warfare, in an avoidance pattern with that experience in your body. What happens when, you've all probably been around spiritual circles long enough that when you resist, what happens? What happens when you resist something? Does it go away? It's like, all right, I guess you're not interested in me. All right, well, I'll just lovingly go away and we'll hug it out. It persists, right? And so the more antagonizing you become, it persists. Thank you, Todd. The more antagonizing you become, the more you stand against something within yourself, the more you say no to that experience, the more you say, I'll fight it, I'll get stronger than it, I will figure out all this intelligence and overpower it, I'll manage it, I'll cope with it. All of that is just another way of saying you are not accepting what's happening. You are offering it resistance. And it doesn't just persist, but it grows to the level of your resistance. So when you're a kid, you resist a little bit. But as you become an adult and it becomes tedious, you resist even more. So it persists even more. And you find yourself in those patterns more often. Because while you're gaining power, it's gaining power. And so the one thing that usually never occurs to most of us is, how do I just allow this in fully? You know, because you think, shit, if I allow this, I'm going to go into such a state of terror and panic. I don't even know where I'm going to go. I'm going to lose myself in it. How many of you guys can say you've had those kind of experiences? I know for me, it's the same thing. Something that really scares me comes up. My body doesn't go, all right, Johnny, like, let's fucking let this terror in. You know, it's like, walls up, baby. Get the moat out, put up the drawbridge, put the army around. Not today, other army. Not today. Right? But the irony of the whole thing is that the way it works is the exact opposite. You got to put the moat, you got to close up the moat, you got to put the drawbridge down, you got to call the army back inside, and you got to let that in. Now it's different, let me just caveat this, different to let it in from when you're watching this happen from the state of what we call your conditioned or localized mind. That's why it's so imperative to be able to locate this awareness, this unlocalized, unconditioned mind, because that frequency of mind, that level of mind can watch anything, and not merge with it. And that's the real training, is to A, locate that. B, invest as much time as you possibly can, do as many repetitions to keep coming back and keep it being reminded of this awareness. And then actually see what it can do, what it does to you and for you and about you when you sit in that place. Because healing, weirdly enough, is not a thing that requires a lot of action. It's quite the opposite. It is an actionless action, as I wrote in there. It's the act of non-doing that does everything you've ever wanted it to do. We always tell our students this: if you try really hard, this process won't work for you. The harder you work on it, the less it will work. The more you just sit and trust in it, the more will happen. Now, here's what happens. The more you sit and trust in it and have faith that it's just going to work out, you start building this confidence, because you see time and time again, the intensity arises, that fear comes, or, these negative thoughts happen. But, I sit here, I get support, I get ground, I find my alignment, this energy metabolizes, and I come out the other end, and what you feel is spaciousness. You're just like, it's like you've been dunked underwater for 40 years and you haven't come up for air while you're kicking and screaming, trying to figure out where is the air. And that happens every single time. So after a while, when you practice this, you build this confidence. You're like, hey, as long as I come back to my awareness, this experience will move through my body. I will experience more spaciousness. I will experience more safety. I'll experience more connection. I'll experience more love. I'll experience more confidence that I can be with what's arising. And that's really the gift of the whole work. There's a lot of programs and teachers that promise you, oh, you're going to make a lot of money at the end of this, and you're going to do this, that, and the other. And look, for all I know, maybe they're teaching great shit and it works. Like, over the last almost 13 years now of having this company, I can't even tell you how many coaches, programs, promises we've invested into. I can think of less than 2, maybe, if that many, that ever amounted to the promises that they offered, whether it was a certain system in sales and marketing, and nothing ever works. They we spend tens of thousands of dollars on a system, try to implement it, doesn't really go anywhere. Does it get some results? Sure. But does it get the results? No, never the results that the person who's selling it, right, is getting. And here we're also telling you, this is not something you can do in a weekend and master. Ilan and I have not mastered this over a weekend. The practices are very, very simple. We can teach those practices in a weekend to you. We do. It's called the intuitive mind. But the reason for the programs and the engagement over a long period of time, because human beings don't master anything in 2 days. You're just going to begin to be, you're going to be able to start realizing within 6 months to a year, how do I actually sit and do the practices properly? And it's at that point that you start building this confidence. And it's not just the programs that are important here. It really is the structure of the community. It is how the community supports the individual and the group simultaneously. Because what we have found, and I think, again, I always say this is very beautiful, is that human beings just cannot heal on their own. Like, we tried it. We tried here reading all the books and working with all the guides and teachers and that, and just sitting here and doing our fucking work, and nothing heals. Because we are socially bonded, energetic beings, and we literally require the support of another human being. When we are ungrounded and afraid, the way that we get ground and the way that we find alignment, the way that we allow for that experience to move through us is literally sitting with another human being who is in this state of awareness with us. Allowing that to be seen, allowing that to be observed. Just feel in your body what it's like when you're in an experience, if somebody really sees you, not understands you, not, okay, they heard you, but like really receives you, really witnesses what's happening. They're with you while that's occurring. Something really magical happens in the human body when we're received. And for most of you guys, you intuitively know this because I promise you, it's what you wanted from mom and dad. The reason we all chase and, we try to impress mom and dad is because we just feel never fully received by mom and dad. They don't see us. So it's like, maybe if I really achieve and do so much, they'll finally see how good I am. They'll finally see that I'm worthy of love and connection and support. And that's what you really want from mom and dad. It's not that they go, oh, you're the president of the United States now. We finally see you. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with there's actually a direct experience that we're looking for. And we find it very difficult to articulate what is that experience. We just know that we're not getting it more than anything. It's like you keep eating food, but you're never fully satiated or not satiated in the right way. And so then you keep going back into those relationships or forming other bonds where you mimic that trauma over and over again, right? Like you'll mimic your trauma with your partner that you used to do with your mom and dad. It just shows up. And that's why it can be very challenging to be with a person your entire life because those fucking patterns are right there again. Right. And so you're looking
help kick them up.
Yeah. And now you're requesting your partner to receive you and see you in the way that your mom and dad never did either. And so you go on this chase, this drug addict chase for this experience and feeling that never quite feels all the way there. And that's what we provide through these practices. And I'm not saying we like Ilan and me, it's what these practices provide. It's what we are choosing to educate and teach people. There are these practices. That thing that is hungry, it can get satiated. And then this thing that's holding on to that hunger is going to slowly let go. And you're going to slowly start unbinding that stuff and slowly start having a different experience of being alive. It doesn't happen like that. This works for people who are committed to this work. This works for people who are committed to a lifestyle of awareness. You can be a weekend warrior and get a big pop and feel really, really good, but it's only going to last a few days. I'll be honest with you. By 3 days after the program is over, you're gonna be like, that was an awesome experience, but I'm right back into my shit. Because that's the whole point. Is these are the practices. Now here's where you got to commit yourself to. You're willing to commit to this for 6 to 12 months. We'll show you how good it can get. But once you have those habits and those practices down, that's it. You can just do that for the rest of your life. You do with them as you please. You can continue with us or you can go do whatever it is that you want. But the reason we structure our programs, well into, I think it's all the way up to 16 months. If you do L3 with us now, the reason we do that is we understand you need to be immersed in this and have a community of people supporting you when things arise. So you get that real-time feedback. You get that real-time support because that's what the nervous system is really looking for. And that's really how we learn to downregulate and downregulate our nervous system on a regular basis. And the moment you understand how to do that, your life takes on a completely different quality and texture than what 99.99% of the human population is currently operating under. And that's the way the cookie crumbles. That's the reality. That's what's required, right? And nobody can walk that path but you. Nobody can walk the path that Ilan and I are choosing to walk in our own lives, and nobody knows your karma and the shit that you got to go through to get there, to clean all this stuff up. So I hope that's a good review for you guys of this work. That's really what's available here. And again, I just want to offer, it does take a commitment, right? And you guys can dip your toe in or you can dive full in. We know which one's going to give you most value, which is just sit with us in the work. Be with us for a year. Be with us for a year and a half. Guarantee you, you're gonna experience life in a way you've never experienced it before, and it's going to be the best investment you've ever made in your entire life. We guarantee that. So again, if you're somebody who just knows you want to be in a program, just email Ilan at satoriprime.com. Be like, I know I want to be in a program. What does it look like? Done. Okay, we'll just set you up. If you're somebody who wants to get a little bit of one-on-one, just kind of feel into it a bit more, you want Ilan to go over the ins and outs of the programs, with you, he's happy to do that. You'll see in the top right corner or on the right-hand side over there, you can book a call with him. We do have a fee of $111 to get on a call with Ilan. The reason for that is very simple. We just want to make sure you show up and you're not wasting Ilan's valuable time. Both of us have a lot to do in running a business and our coaching stuff. And so people can book calls and then they don't show up. At the very least, you're putting something at stake. And so you're more likely to be there. And then if you do decide to move forward with any of our programs, we will just credit that money for that program. So you can just roll that money over into any of our programs as well. Okay. And that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed today. We'll see you back here next week. Thank you for being part of this community and for even being a person open to these inquiries and these conversations. Honestly, that's the most we can ask of anybody, is to just be curious enough to take a look. We would love to support you and bring you to the depths of this work and really, really show you how deep and beautiful these rabbit holes can be. Okay. Love you all. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, dear one, for choosing to share a bit of your day with us. We value you greatly. And as a way to give back and help you to deepen these practices, we want to invite you to join our incredible community on Facebook. You can do so easily by going to joinoldsouls.com and ask for an invite. This is our private community where old souls and seekers are able to grow and share their journey with others. We hold exclusive weekly live streams, we answer your personal questions, and offer valuable insights that we won't be able to share here on the podcast. So again, just head to joinoldsouls.com and grab your invite today. And as always, if you enjoy this podcast, please head to iTunes and leave us a review. It's the only way other people can find this show. So if it's making a difference in your life, please share the love. Until we meet again, have an amazing week, dear one.